Welcome, everybody. This is another edition of Cloud Native Live. My name is Matt Cassio. I'm a CNCF ambassador. I'll be your host today for a wonderful talk called Trivia Tokens and Traffic Meet Envoy AI Gateway. We have here some folks from TETRADE, and our speaker today is Erica Huberg. And I'm going to let her take the stage here in just a moment. But first, I just want to let everybody know today's event is a CNCF online program, which means that all of our activity here is subject to the CNCF Code of Conduct. You can find that on the CNCF website under /conduct. And in layman's terms, the summary is be respectful to everyone at all times. And we expect you to adhere to that code of conduct today, please. So without further ado, Erica, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you, Matt. It's lovely to be here, and it's super lovely to be here with Arko and Takashi as well. So what is quite funny is that we actually are here representing quite the Envoy community, because we have, so I'm involved, I'm involved a bit all over the Envoy community, but I am an Envoy AI Gateway maintainer, and I will talk on behalf of Arko and Takeshi a little bit here, but Arko is an Envoy Gateway maintainer. By the way, there was an Envoy Gateway 1.4 release yesterday. Wow, congratulations, Arko. I know you were up late, or at least late East Coast time. I don't think it was that late San Francisco time, but it was late for me. And then Takashi is both an Envoy AI Gateway maintainer and also an Envoy proxy maintainer. And what is kind of fun about that is the Envoy community is really all about being able to handle different kinds of traffic and being able to configure Envoy proxy to be able to handle all this kinds of traffic. And it is kind of fun how traffic has evolved over the last 9 years, and rather the last decade, if we think about it. The Envoy project has been open sourced for almost 9 years, if you think about it. It's rather a CNCF and cloud native veteran project. It's not really a new kid on the block, really. It's been here for a while. So we are here at Envoy AI Gateway. Is the newest part of the Envoy ecosystem and family. And it's built and part of this family. So the components of it is not really new, because it is really Envoy proxy and Envoy gateway and a little bit of extra sprinkle and magic to help us bring us to handle the new type of traffic patterns and challenges we are seeing with AI traffic. However, you might be curious why we're calling this live trivia tokens and traffic. Well, we are going to be doing trivia, but no one here is going to be answering any questions. Well, sigh of relief, right? That's the good news. No one here is going to be answering any questions. And if you are tuning in here live, well, we're going to have some great opportunities for everyone, even you watching. So if you want to comment live as you are here tuning in, say hello. That's lovely. Also, feel free to comment where you are tuning in from in the world. It's lovely that you're here. Hello, hello. Also, we are going to have a lovely trivia competition. But who's competing? Oh, great question. I'm so glad you were asking who's competing in this trivia competition. It is some LLMs competing, and we're going to be asking them questions. And let me show you what we're doing. So let's get into it. See if Matt can help me that off. Fantastic.
Yep, you should be on the stage now.
Oh, amazing. So trivia, tokens, and traffic meet Envoy AI Gateway. Oh, hello from Kenya. That's amazing. Bulgaria. Wow. I've never been to Bulgaria, by the way. I heard it's beautiful. And I've never been to Kenya either. And I do have met a lot of people from there, though, when I lived in London. That's really cool. Thank you for tuning in live. So, well, As I spoke about, the Envoy AI Gateway is part of the Envoy family and the Envoy project, and it leverages Envoy Gateway, which is a control plane that helps configure Envoy Proxy, which is the proxy that really routes traffic to places and handle GenAI traffic. But let's get to the fun part. Let's get to the trivia part. We'll come back to this fancy little cute animations and text on purpley pink background slides in a bit. So, trivia, tokens, and traffic. Well, so in this arena, we are going to be asked ridiculous questions that hopefully no LLM should ever have been trained to answer. Well, maybe they have. Who knows? So will these LLMs keep their composure? Will they hallucinate widely? Just to be clear, there is no price, there is no dignity. There's just pointless points and maximum confusion. And then we're going to look at some analytics and Kubernetes resources and how it all hangs together. And all of this is powered by Envoy AI Gateway. And we're going to look at how that works and what it really did underneath to make it all hang together. So let's do this. Let's get into the trivia game. So I have some silly questions. And by the way, if you want to meet the contestants, we have BrainyBot, we have Clever Cleo, we have Wise Watson. It's actually nothing to do with Watson, rather Watson anything to do with AI. It's rather to do with Watson because I like Sherlock Holmes. And then we have Smart Sally. If you want to make a bet, I want to increase, well, let's see here. Can I zoom in a little? But that, if for anyone, please let me know in the chat if it's hard to see anything. Hopefully, I zoomed in a little. Hopefully, you can see the screen well. So, if you see the contestants there, if you are watching live, you may want to see which of these little non-human contestants you think will win this competition. What's the game? They have been instructed. There are some rules here. Well, we've asked them to be funny, not just correct. But also, I'm not going to give them easy questions. Also, you want to ask them a question? This is live. Feel free to drop a question in the comments to that I may ask them. I am not the only person that can ask them questions. I will give these questions live. So the first question, that is really my favorite question to ask, is what is the best way to climb a tree? So let's ask them this question and let's find out what they're saying. Well, they don't always get it right because obviously I asked them to be funny. Go bananas, honestly. That is not how you climb a tree. Leap and bound kind of could work. Let's say that's right. Shimmy up. I would climb a tree like a squirrel on a well, okay. Squirrels do climb trees, branch by branch. Yeah, actually, that is correct. Well, I have, Arco, I have warned you. I have said, please, could you be the judge of who really was the funniest here? Who wins the funny? They don't have to be right. Who is the funniest?
Shimmy Up is
Shimmy
the funny
up.
one. Wise
Okay.
Watson. Yeah.
Okay. Sherlock's good friend gets the funny. Okay. My next question is clearly not something that could ever be correct. But what? Well, I did number these. What is the colour of the wind on Wednesdays? Honestly, there is no right answer. Obviously invisible, that is. BrainyBot, that is correct if you want to be correct. Blue, but what? I don't think so. I don't think that is correct. Invisible wind is invisible. Wise Watson, you are right. Oh, Matt, blue, obviously. Is the wind blue? Have I missed something? Sally and Cleo clearly are on the same page here. Have I missed something, guys? I mean, feel free to give a live comment here. Is the wind blue? Have I missed this? Arco, I will ask you again, which one is the funniest? Because I'm not sure here.
I like invisible. I like BrainyBot's answer. Yeah, let's go with that.
Thank you, Arco. Maybe we have to ask Takeshi in a bit on which one's funniest, because this to me is getting interesting. Well, It's let's see here. We have some more interesting. If a developer refactors code in a forest and no one reviews the pull request, well, I didn't copy the whole question, so that didn't help. Request, did anything change? Well, that is a very good question. Well, BrainyBot, what's up with you? The tree falls. That is clearly incorrect. No change. Maybe no one knows. It's the tree. Oh, I don't know. Well, Arco, do you think Smart Sally is correct here? Did anything change? What do we think?
It depends if there's internet in the forest. So I don't know. It's all TBD.
I think there's 5G out in the forest, Arco. I do think so.
Did the reviewer have rights to merge the request? We don't know. So
we don't know. There's too many unknowns. I'm just going to say, I'm going to say there's too many unknowns. I don't think any of them got it right. But who is the funniest, Arco? Well, I'll Scott Takeshi next time. We'll get him online in a second.
no one. Do we have to pick?
We don't know. No one's funny this time. We just move on. They're not doing well. This is not. Okay, I'll have Takeshi, I'm gonna get you online here because this is an important question. What's heavier, a gigabyte of feathers or a gigabyte of lead? This is an important question. So, I mean, I think the equal weight is the right answer if this was a real question. So the weight's the same. I think that is the correct thing. But Takeshi, which one's the funniest? Do you think any of them really was funny?
I'm not following the question. Like, how can they equal?
Literally, the question is nonsensical, Takeshi. It's literally a
I'm just
nonsensical
trying to try
question.
hard.
The question is literally a nonsensical question that has no real answer.
Okay. No one is funny to me. I don't know.
Okay, that's all right. They don't have to be funny. So basically, this entire what I'm trying to do is because if we ask a bunch of silly questions to to our wonderful contestants. If you microwave a Docker container, is it still reproducible? Seems like also a nonsensical question, completely nonsensical. Well, basically, I'm going to
I like the first answer that's related to actually Facebook's implementation of containers.
I was just moving on. I was marked things to just generate traffic. But if anyone has any question, actually, Adept Soul made some comments quite funny about the blue wind. And the blue wind says, it seems you might be referring to Into the Wind featuring Magnus Clausen, a song by Blue Wednesday released on January 6, 2020, which is part of the album The Great Escape. So the blue wind may actually be referring to something, by the way. Maybe wind is blue. So maybe the LLMs were not completely wrong about a blue wind, by the way. So that's interesting. Okay, Arco, sorry. I was quite excited about this blue wind situation. So Arco, what did you say about the containers, the microwavable Docker containers?
No, the first part was being funny there. Yeah, and using Tupperware because that's what the container system is called within Facebook. Yeah.
Oh, They were funny. They were doing something funny.
Yeah.
That is quite interesting. I wonder if we asked it something about what is the relation. Now I'm doing live stuff. Relationship between Envoy Gateway and Envoy Proxy. I wonder what they're going to say. I don't think they're very good at being funny.
They're serious.
They're very serious. They were instructed to be funny.
Did you fine-tune them to be funny, Erica? Did you add some SFT to make them funny?
I added instructions.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
There is a system instruction. There. Okay. I mean, this is like users, configures.
It is not wrong.
It's not wrong. We can get correct. Okay, it's just you. Onward Gateway's management there. Okay, this also they only get to use 20 tokens, by the way. So Wise Watson, we're really trying here, pushing its limits. So I'll put a little, when you say max tokens, I'll put it 20. Smart Sally, I'm going to give you a star, not for being funny, but for being good. Gold star for that. And Onward Proxy Suite, Clever Cleo, I'm not really sure you do it. Also, you were really slow. Yeah. I'll get you correct. So, as you can see, we've been collecting points. Well, let's have a little look at what's going on, though. So, I've been playing this game now for a little bit. So, let's continue on. This game, as we have a bit of game history here, we've been looking at the response time. I've been marking people as the people. They're not people. Look, I'm referring to these contestants as people. They're not people. Absolutely not people. They're little computer programs. So someone said they're getting scared earlier in the comments. They're scared about me calling these people. But I look at some analytics here. Obviously, I've been playing this game for way too long. You should be worried about what I've been up to in my spare time. Been playing with non-people, asking them silly questions. But if we look at the last hour here, we see something quite interesting. Is we don't actually have the same number of requests per model. So first of all, that's going to tell you something. These contestants are not using a single model. We actually have some contestants. Some contestants are using a single model. And we have some contestants that are using more than one model. They randomize their model usage. It's actually Smart Sally. She's not smart in how she picks her model. She actually uses random, but she uses a different model with different question, like randomized it, and different models. This is more just interesting. This is not by design. They were all told that the max output tokens they were supposed to use was 20. This is not an average, this is total. So this is actually quite correlated with total requests per model. But you did see that over time, if we go back to the trivia game, the clears, but we can do some queries on Prometheus. There are some models that tend to use more output tokens overall. So if we look here as well, we've been collecting, these are actually statistics from Prometheus, by the way. So all of these statistics we're looking at are from Prometheus. I'm just querying that directly and using Apache eCharts here in the UI to show, but we also see this average speed. This is from do zoom in a little. That didn't work really well. This is the average speeds for the different models that we're dealing with. So these are the models, and I can tell you a bit where I'm calling them. So I'm calling GPT-4 on OpenAI, the Mistral I'm calling on Mistral, and Llama I'm calling on AWS Bedrock. And what is quite interesting about what I'm doing here, we can look into the Kubernetes resources. So what does Envoy AI Gateway do here? So this is where we're going to take a quick look at Envoy AI Gateway in more detail. We can come back to the Kubernetes resources in a moment. So when we are, let's see if I have a good, okay. So this little flow diagram is actually quite helpful. So I'm going to zoom in on it. So when we have a client, in my instance, that's my trivia game, right? And we have a client request, and then we have Envoy proxy, because remember, that proxy is actually the thing that handles the request. And then we have something that is an external processor. So the external processor we have built in the AI Gateway project that does some special logic that transforms and validates requests. Because in my game here, where I connect to all of these different providers, so I connect to Mistral, OpenAI, and AWS Bedrock. Mistral and OpenAI, I can use the same API, but AWS Bedrock actually has a separate API. But my trivia game, it just uses the same API, the OpenAI API, regardless of which provider it interacts with. So I need to the Envoy AI Gateway transforms that. So my app, the trivia game, doesn't have to change the code or anything to interact with the different providers. So those are the AI providers up here. So this external processor that is part of the Envoy AI Gateway project transforms that request. So it's like a little facade. So it gives me, the app developer, the trivia game developer, a really nice way of interacting with all of these different providers. So that transforms and validates my request. The other neat thing is that in my trivia game app, I don't have to have any Mistral API key or OpenAI API key or AWS credentials in my trivia game app. All of that is handled in the gateway because it handles all of the upstream provider auth logic in the gateway. So from an app developer point of view, imagine I am the trivia app game developer. I don't have to worry about any of that. So that was just configured and set up, and that handles it for me. So I just have to worry about how my app authenticates to the gateway, not how I interact with all these different providers to interact with the different LLM providers. So this external processor helps take care of that. So that happens, and that is between the Envoy proxy and the external processor. So that happens. And then my requests got forwarded to the AI provider, and then I get the response. And then we process the response and we extract the token usage. So if we come back here to look at the analytics, so this is, how we have token usage and we have this information and about, for example, the output tokens. I was quite interested in the output tokens because I was the one doing the input tokens in my trivia game. So I was in control of the input tokens. I was quite curious about the output tokens. So that's why I put that in my analytics here. So we capture that. And by the way, here's the boring stuff from Prometheus we're doing. I was playing around with some queries to try and figure out my queries so I could then display them prettily in my analytics dashboard. But ultimately, we are able to then extract that token usage and be able to publish that metrics to Prometheus, for example. And we're also able to extract that token usage and publish it to Redis for enforcement and rate limit control of tokens. We're also able to extract that and use that for putting in the headers. Actually, when I say publish it to Redis, it's a little bit more complicated, but it's not just straight publish to Redis. Actually put it into headers and dynamic metadata that goes into a lot of different places. But we are able to use this information in a lot of different ways, from metrics to rate limit enforcement, and also as we are transforming the response as well to adhere to this unified API, we are able to, as you see here, also add that usage metadata into Envoy proxy, which then handles the rate limiting, but then that response comes back to the client. So what's kind of cool for me as a trivia game app developer, I just interact with a single unified API, and I don't have to worry about all of this other stuff going on here. Bunch of magic, if we want to call it that. Not magic. Takashi wrote a bunch of code together with a bunch of other people who are really smart. And it's not magic. They didn't do magic. But from a app developer perspective, I was able to build an app using a single unified API and have my, if we want to pretend that these competitors here are users, are sending loads of different requests. And they are using lots of different models, but it's just a single API, and we are connecting to lots of different providers. And Smart Sally is even connecting to lots of different providers, and we don't have to worry about, at the application layer, about all of the different authorization to those upstream providers. We have a question in the chat, so I'm going to check that out. So Adaptsoul is asking, I'm an AI newbie, but are the upstream providers using the same session for the entire game? Maybe new sessions were started that did, okay, thank you for putting that up there. Maybe new sessions were started that didn't get the instructions to be funny in the responses. Okay, that's a really good question. So actually, we are providing that. So every request, so it's not so much sessions in how, so we're using, in this game, we were using the chat completion API. And how those requests were actually constructed is for each time a question. So when I sent the question, I was using the chat completion API. So, I mean, hello is not, what's the best way to paint a rainbow? So when I asked this question, what's going to happen is there's actually a system prompt part of the chat completion API request I'm making. And there is 4 parallel requests that are being sent. And those parallel requests includes that system prompt, and I'm using the chat completions API. So they do include that instruction at the beginning. So it's almost like I'm starting a new chat for each question. So they're not like user sessions, each question. Hopefully that helps that question. Adaptsoul. So that is this application of my little trivia game is very, very simple, because each of these are like completely standalone requests that are not like sessions, and they have no knowledge, and there's no context being carried at all between the questions that were being asked. Hopefully that helps us answer that question, Adaptsoul. There's obviously, if one wanted, you could create a much more advanced trivia game application where, for example, Smart Sally could learn how we were grading the questions and start being really intelligent even about which model she should be using when answering to score better. That could be quite funny. I actually was thinking that would be a funny iteration of the game where you could have these contestants be really, really smart and start being almost intelligent. But from a simple application developer point of view, I were just able to have some really simple interaction with the providers from a client to AI provider. What I was able to get out of this was a simple interface and being able to just say, hey, hi, here is the model that I want to use. And but to be able to get that, I, in this scenario, had to play the role of platform engineer. And since Erica had to play the role of platform engineer as well as app developer, there was some stuff that I had to do to create this nice experience for Erica, the app developer. So let's talk a little bit about what Erica had to do for herself. As now I sound like I have some two personalities, but in this scenario, I kind of did. So and what's kind of fun here is where we look at Envoy AI Gateway, we stand very much on Envoy Gateway, right? So I'm going to jump into Envoy Gateway. We have to talk in this where we got, hopefully, yeah, Arco is here. So if you have any questions about Envoy Gateway, feel free to drop them in here. So Envoy Gateway is a project that's been around now for quite a while, and it has a very strong foundation in the Envoy project, and it is a management plane for Envoy Proxy. Specifically, it implements first and foremost the Kubernetes Gateway API to help you configure and manage a fleet of Envoy proxies in Kubernetes. You can also use it to manage an Envoy proxy outside of Kubernetes, but we're not going to talk about that necessarily today. But you can call Arco some other day, some elsewhere to talk about that, or join the Envoy Gateway community meetings and ask him about that. So it is ultimately a control plane. So Envoy AI Gateway was not necessarily about reinventing all of the cool stuff that Envoy Gateway already can help you do with Envoy Proxy, or reinvent anything that Envoy Proxy can already do, which has a lot to do with traffic control, routing, security, authentication, authorization, monitoring and observability, all of those things that already existed. It really looked to leverage all of that. And that really comes back to where it all began. Because how did Envoy AI Gateway really start? Well, it did start with a question, which really was a suggestion. And that was when Dan Sun, who you may, if you followed the Envoy AI Gateway project, you may have heard of Dan Sun, but he came to the Envoy Gateway community and he was like, well, couldn't we create an LLM route in the Envoy Gateway project? He said. And I thought, me, Erica, that is, I was like, isn't AI traffic just HTTP traffic, really? Isn't this LLM stuff just HTTP traffic going from a client to an LLM provider? So isn't that just the HTTP traffic? So what's wrong with the HTTP route? And God, I was wrong. Because, you see, AI traffic and LLM traffic, I learned that is a little bit different. Because LLM traffic, it is slower and it is heavier often, because it's not like my trivia game where I say I only want 20 tokens back and I only put in a very little question. You see, a lot of LLM traffic is actually a lot heavier than that, a lot bigger, both input-wise and output-wise. My trivia game is not representative of the shape of that kind of traffic at all. So with it being both heavier, slower, and incredibly more unpredictable, and also the type of failover logic and routing decisions we have to start making is quite different. So when we looked at what we had to do, and also the challenges that first came up, like the unified API, we had to think differently. So that's really how we came to think about how we could build on top of Envoy Gateway, not around it, and bring some of these features to help us all leverage Envoy Gateway and Envoy Proxy to handle AI traffic. And in some instances, that means that we both contribute to Envoy Proxy and Envoy Gateway to bring solutions across the entire Envoy ecosystem to handle AI traffic better.
Erica, there's a specific question in the chat saying, what makes it heavier? Do you want to take that?
Yeah, so what makes it heavier? So what is really interesting is if we look at what happened when we were designing systems, when we were designing systems, many of us were going through this really interesting part where we were designing, we had monoliths, but even in monoliths or in we were going from monoliths to microservices, we were breaking services apart. And even in the internet, we were really focused on creating services that had very predictable, often, and smaller payloads, because we wanted to have stable connectivity between clients and backends, and often to create stability and understanding about how our systems communicated. Having very, very large payloads and complex communication is tricky. So even in systems that I designed, that predictability was interesting. But what makes often LLM traffic heavy? Because often we want to either transfer large amounts of data, and often that results in streaming. And what's interesting about it, also that type of streaming becomes interesting because it's normally not the type of streaming we are used to when we talk about media streaming, for example. Because we are not talking about streaming a song or streaming a predictable piece of data. So when you stream music or streaming something that has already been created from a service. So imagine you are streaming a song. That song already existed. So your phone could have been very smart and pre-downloaded that ahead of time. But if you even want to generate a large amount of data on the fly, you can't be smart and pre-download that before you even needed it. So with Gen AI, because it is being generated, even the streaming has to happen as or after it was generated by the server. So it is heavier because it has to be transferred when or after it was generated. So a lot of what we're seeing with traditional content streaming, even when, like, I think there's some really smart stuff that happens, especially in media streaming services that we use. A lot of that content is very smart in how it's being preloaded on edges and even on client devices ahead of time. And it often knows us better than we know ourselves. And it knows what we want to listen to or read before we even need it, because it's content that existed ahead of time. Whereas when we engage with Gen AI, that is content that didn't even exist before it was generated. So when it is generated, we are looking at this, is it heavier? We can't use the existing tricks we were using for preloading and making network and data transfer seem magical the way we used to. So we are looking at heavier. So Could it be like streaming a video game? Even video games where content already existed, but streaming a video game in a video game, only subparts of the game didn't exist already. So yes, but part of the video game has similar challenges because yes, there are players that are co-creating the existence at that time. There will be similar challenges, yes, because part of that game didn't already exist. Yes, that would be similar challenges, yes, because it gets created at time. So those are similar challenges when things are being created and you have to stream it at that time. But typical things that we see with the LLM traffic, typical thing is like a PDF, large PDFs being sent. So even like a little example is when we stream data and then we need to fail over, for example. It's going to sound really boring maybe, but we can't release memory in the same way inside of a proxy. So little bits like that, because we may need to, so for example, you're getting a request and you are sending that upstream to the target, and you're sending this large piece of data, and the upstream LLM service or Gen AI service is failing for some reason, and now you need to fail over. You couldn't, to be able to fail over with the proxy, you can't necessarily release that data from memory in the proxy because you need to hold it to be able to then fail over to another upstream service. So you also need to think about how you handle memory, and you need to be smart about it. So smarter people than me worry about those things. I am not a smart person figuring out those things. People like Takeshi and other people in the Envoy community are thinking about how can we be smart about how we handle failovers and memory and those things. And I'm not going to claim any at all credit for thinking about how we do smart things there. So I think, yeah, I do think that it's very interesting with how we look at handling LLM traffic and how we can deal with the heaviness of that data. So Jay, the heaviness of LLM traffic, did it help answer your question? What makes LLM traffic heavy? I do want to highlight that Envoy itself is very light. In this instance, it's the Arco. Do you want to? There is a question for you here, Arco.
Sure, let me just read that out. I also think that like when used in a service mesh, each pod runs its own Envoy sidecar. This doubles container count increase, memory and CPU, and adds networking overhead. Also might be the reason. No, I think so. Erica was referring to specifically with AI traffic, and the heaviness comes from like larger request body and response body. Yes, because of multiple hops, that can also add up. So yeah, that can also be an overhead in the hops as well. But even for these cases, the largest latency is actually the RTT to actually go to a provider and come back as well.
Oh yeah, in the world of AI life, the latency definitely is the providers. But what's really fascinating on latency is often not a concern in LLM traffic, by the way, which has been a learning curve for me as well. We talked a lot about Envoy proxy today. And I did like talking about Envoy proxy because Envoy proxy is at the core of this entire journey. And there is a lot of work from this community that happens in Envoy Proxy and evolving Envoy Proxy in this new era of AI traffic. And I find that super exciting. And if you find this interesting, I really encourage you to come and join us in the community. And as I said earlier, Envoy Proxy is not a new kid on the block. It has been around for a long time, but it's been so much work happening in this community over the last 9 years and continues to grow. It's going to continue to be really exciting. So I really encourage you to come join us. And we have Envoy Gateway, that is a continuously growing community in this control plane world and configuring the Envoy proxy in Kubernetes, and you can also come and join us over there. And you can definitely we're all together, and this is why we have the Envoy AI Gateway. So I like to look at this as all components that come together and build on top of each other. So that's why this little graphic, the purple and the green and the orange. If you're not colorblind, I do apologize. I use a lot of colors, and I have friends who are colorblind. Who's like, Erica, you are not helping with your colors, so I do apologize. But ultimately, it's about all of these components coming together. But more than the components coming together, it's about all of us coming together, and with our ideas and our perspectives as users and builders coming together and building solutions that work for us and in this new era of traffic handling. So and I see that Matt was wondering if we were about to wrap up. I think we have another 10 minutes. I did want to jump. I was planning on showing a little bit more about the different configurations if people were interested.
Yeah, you have plenty of time. I
Yeah.
just wanted to be ready if
Yes.
you were wrapping up, but
Ah,
take all the
no,
time you need.
yeah. If I see Balaji there saying AI traffic is for LLM traffic. I think that's a really good point there, Balaji. It definitely is. It definitely is, and I think that is a fantastic point. So when we look at Envoy AI Gateway, and I'll just jump into that before I come back to talking about some of the configurations that powered my little app there. Right now, at the beginning of Envoy AI Gateway, the first thing that we focused on was the LLM traffic, as that was the beginning of the journey. As I said, this is very much built by a community and by the people who shape the features. And LLM traffic is just a subset of AI traffic. And that was the first step that we were looking at. And it's built by the people who are part of this community. So where are we going next and what's happening next? So we're just about to release version 02 of Envoy AI Gateway. And that is not necessarily bringing any new protocol support. Just want to highlight that. But what are we talking about in the community? So we're definitely talking about MCP traffic routing. That is one of the topics that we're talking about, not just in the Envoy AI Gateway community, but in the Envoy community at large. So that stretches beyond Envoy AI Gateway, because that touches on Envoy proxy as well, and how we can make sure that from data plane to control planes, we are able to enable that type of traffic handling. So that is a really, really important point that you bring up there. biology. And if that is something that interests you, there's also the A2A protocol that's been brought up there. I think there's I can't remember, there's other protocols that are out there. I'm not going to quote them for now, but there's so much happening here. And it's really interesting to see how the shape of traffic is evolving with this change in how people are building and constructing software and how software is communicating. And I really look forward to us collaborating as a community and discussing what all of this means. And I really hope that anyone who finds these topics of traffic and traffic handling interesting would be interested in coming and discussing that in the Envoy community, whether that is in the proxy community, in Envoy proxy, or in Envoy Gateway, or in Envoy AI Gateway. And you can show up in any of the conversations, and we will, guide you to talk to the right people. We have on the Envoy AI Gateway community meetings that are people from all of the different, parts of the Envoy community. Said Takeshi is a maintainer of both Envoy Proxy and Envoy AI Gateway. So, we have representation, and we have other Envoy Proxy maintainers in the Envoy AI Gateway community. So you have people from different parts of their community showing up in the different meetings. So don't feel like, oh, I'm in the wrong place. You're not in the wrong place. You are in the right place. You will find your way. As long as you're interested in traffic handling, you'll find your way. I'd say we are a very friendly community, and as long as you're interested in traffic handling, you will be in the right place regardless. So feel free to jump in. Deepanshu, I see your question. Why every 10 years? I don't know the question. Feel free to expand on the question. Happy to answer. So why every 10 years what? Feel free to expand on that. That would be great. So we only have a few minutes left. I want to just give you guys a little bit of an idea of what, as a platform engineer, what you got to configure if you want to make it easy for an app developer who maybe want to build something else than a trivia game to connect to providers, and what my absolute favorite feature is. So ultimately, that the key resource beyond if you're familiar with the gateway API in Kubernetes, you have the gateway class, you have the gateway, all basic stuff, nothing new. I made it blue, by the way, if you're into colors. That means nothing new, or like standard resources, nothing crazy. Then this one is special. So this is an AI Gateway Envoy Proxy.io resource. So this is where some magic happens, right? So this is where you'll see some of my specials. This is where we have the providers, right? So I have OpenAI and Mistral. So I have Mistral here. This is my backend graphs. And I have AWS. So I'm just using Mistral, OpenAI, and AWS. And for these, then, there's the backends. So Mistral, OpenAI, AWS. I have Azure here because I don't use it, but this is an example, so we'll ignore Azure for now. But you can use Azure. We have some really cool feature, and this is the one that's really exciting. So this upstream auth, especially in enterprise settings, we have OIDC integration, and with AWS and Azure, this is where that gets interesting. You want to do OIDC integration and rotation, automatic rotation of your AWS credentials. So with Azure, we have Entra ID integration, and with AWS, you have OIDC integration. And the Envoy AI Gateway control plane automatically rotates the credentials so they're up to date. So you don't have to worry about it. So this is really helpful in an enterprise setting. So I really like that as someone who comes from enterprise tech, and that is really, really helpful. But Mistral and OpenAI, they just use API keys. So that's really simple. But from an enterprise setting, I kind of prefer this, credentials and OIDC and OAuth and things like that. I prefer that, to be honest, because that feels a bit better. Sleep better at night with that. We can talk about that another day. So ultimately, you have the AI service backend. Again, those are the AI gateway resources. And we have the backend security policy, which is special. That is, again, the AI gateway special resources. So you see here, there's an API key. And then we have the AWS credentials, and then we have Azure credentials, right? I know you hope to see that I was going to give away credentials that you could steal and use in this video. I know I didn't. Then we have some special things here. We have some special things here around the backend, which is a Envoy Gateway resource. So we're just doing FQDN here, very straightforward. And then we have the backend TLS policy, which is standard, like, gateway API resources. And then secrets, a secret, again, I know you hyped I was going to show you my secrets and you were going to copy them and use them for your stuff. I didn't. I'd actually removed them. But there, I have my ones, though, in my Kubernetes cluster. So this is all in our examples. So if we actually go to Envoy AI Gateway and we go to examples, so I have edited some of mine stuff, but if we go to basic and you go to basic YAML, you can actually find a lot of these resources here and you can check them out yourself. And you can also see more examples available. And can check them out. So we have some questions about how to get involved, and that is really how I'd like to wrap up this chat today, because I obviously want people to get involved. That is my main hope. So how can you get involved? So community meetings, Slack, GitHub, bring your expertise, questions, and ideas. So I think one of the trickiest parts with getting involved in open source, at least something that really always held me back, was thinking that the only way I could get involved and the only way I could add value was if I could contribute code and contribute really, really smart code. And if I was able to solve some really, really, really complicated problems. So first of all, that is not the only way you can contribute. And first of all, the Envoy AI Gateway is a community of builders, is a community of users, and this community is about shaping the direction together. And shaping the direction together is not just about building code. And we shape the direction together. We bring questions, we bring ideas, and we bring expertise. And sometimes that is just about bringing a point of view. Sometimes it's about bringing a use case. Sometimes by bringing a user story, being able to take a problem and truly turn that problem into a succinct expression of a feature. Sometimes it's about taking a use case and expressing it in a really, really good way. Sometimes it is about bringing a question like Dan Sun did and turning that into a suggestion with a clear motivation. And sometimes that turns into an entire project, an entire sub-project within an ecosystem, like Envoy AI Gateway. So I put these QR codes up here. You can view us on GitHub, visit the website, join us on Slack. One question we have here on the stream is, how can you get involved as a UX designer? you can get involved and help us with everything from our docs pages to helping create educational material, diagrams. I mean, I showed you some diagrams today, like this one. Could we make better diagrams? Most likely. Could we create better educational material, help people learn? Absolutely. UX is so important to help people. So I think the easiest way to always get involved is to ask questions. You can always bring your expertise. And if you wonder how you can help, don't hesitate to find me on LinkedIn or find me on Slack. You can have a one-on-one conversation with me if you want. I'm happy to even brainstorm with you how you can get involved. You more than likely have something you can contribute. I would love to see you in the community, and your ideas are always valuable. So it all started with a question. So what suggestion will you bring? I really look forward to seeing you in the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erica. That was wonderful experience today. Envoy is very interesting, and I'm glad we had a lot of participation from our viewers. So thank you all very much for making this a lively chat. That wraps up today's session. There's we try to have a new session every week, sometimes multiple sessions each week. So check out the CNCF online programs website for upcoming events, and hopefully you'll follow along with the new event. Thank you so much. Take care.